Hello and welcome to Gazette discussion for 24th June 2021. My name is Harsh Singh and we will cover many interesting articles through this discussion. The featured news for today is about COVID and tourism. Here we discuss tourism in a new light, not in the light of entertainment but in the light of the economy, the role in society and environment tourism plays and how COVID has impacted all of it. This day in history is an important day in the study of the Cold War. This is about the Berlin Blockade, an important event during Cold War times. The three news snapshots that we have brought today are: one, on recusal of judges. We will understand what is recusal and what are the provisions regarding the same. Delimitation of Jammu and Kashmir. What is delimitation and how does it happen specifically with respect to J&K? And then we discuss about some safety issues in the industries in India. The image of the day is about an important animal, Pygmy Hog. Terms and concepts. We discuss 4 terms and concepts today. The first one is about genetically modified rubber, which is being planted in Assam. The second is about the 4th tiger reserve in Rajasthan. The third is Presidio Principles, important term, right? Introduced by World Economic Forum. And the fourth is Doppler radars being introduced in Maharashtra for climate understanding. Editorials of the day. The 2 editorials that we have for today are India needing a 3rd generation reforms after the 1st generation reforms after independence and 1991 reforms. The second is about the issues women face, the females face because of the technology gap in terms of the digital access. The case study of the day is about Mr. Chaudhary from Nasik in Maharashtra. He has become an important player to dispel fake news in the district. This day in history is important because today is the day when Berlin Blockade was introduced on 24th June 1948-49. Now, 48. What is the issue about it? Now, there were 2 important players. One was the USSR and the second one was USA and the Allied powers. Both of them, USA Allied powers and this is USSR. Now, both these powers had different ideologies. They were more oriented towards socialist economies and they were more liberated. They were more oriented towards the liberal economies, like so the capitalist economies. And Russia did not want the Allied powers to interfere much with those countries which had already lost the war, the World War II, for example, Germany, right? So Russia had, erstwhile USSR, had created a blockade. It had blocked the complete West Germany region so that aid, supplies, food, etc. could not be passed to those areas. And therefore the Allied powers had to airlift. They had to put the supplies in planes and airdrop to West Germany, and this is how the crisis was handled. But this crisis led to a major Cold War between both these kind of ideologies and the 2 sides, right? Okay, so Berlin Blockade. New snapshot. The first snapshot that we discussed today is about the reclusion of judges from doing their duty. What is reclusion? So in the article we talk about why this is in news first. This is in news because some judges have said that they won't be presiding over certain cases, right? Because of certain reasons. So we should understand what is reclusion. So reclusion, as it is mentioned here, is about judges saying they won't be able to participate in the judgment of that particular case, right? So the doctrine of judicial recusal talks about a judge who is lawfully appointed in particular case. However, they say that they won't be able to participate in that particular case. They want withdrawal from the name in that case, right? So why do they do it? They do it because of several factors. The first important factor is conflict of interest. They feel that if, suppose, their relative is involved in the jurisdiction, right? So they might be biased towards the solution of that judgment in favor of their relative, right? Away from their duty. So one is conflict of interest, which has to be declared, and then they can be relieved from the that particular case. This is one situation. Okay. The second one is about the personal association. Now, if they have some stakes in the company, for example, if this company is in a litigation with another company, and the judge who is presiding over this case, if that person has got some interest or some amount of stakeholdership in this company, they will have again conflict of interest. So these are the two cases in which they can recluse themselves. They can say, I will not be participating in the judgment making process. However, there are other cases also where this can happen. So this is the third case where it can happen. Now, if a judgment has been delivered in High Court, right, and the same person who delivered judgment is now a part of Supreme Court, right, and appeal was made against this judgment, High Court judgment. So in Supreme Court, if this case is referred to them, this is against their own judgment, right? So therefore, the person will recluse themselves again. So these are important ways one can recluse from the cases, right? However, there is no rule as to in what cases one can be reclused, right? So there are no written rules regarding it, right? It is only about the conscience of the judge. If the judge feels they should withdraw, they can write an application regarding the same. They also need not write any explanation why they are reclusing. So in certain cases, judge say because of personal reasons they want to skip. In certain cases, they do not give any explanation, right? So, but in many cases, the judges have also refused to withdraw from a case. They said, no, we will not withdraw, right? There is no conflict of interest. The idea here is that in the judicial system also there must be more transparency. So to build transparency, one must give reasons. This is what the commission also, the verdict also mentioned in the commission's report, National Judicial Appointment Commission, right? So this is what the article is about. Now, all you got to note down is that there is something called as reclusion, and what are the conditions in which reclusion, what is reclusion, what are the conditions, the three conditions that we discussed, and what is the best practice. Best practice is to make it more transparent, right? Okay. Delimitation of Jammu and Kashmir. Before we move ahead, let me show you the map. Now, this was Jammu Kashmir before 2019, right? This is the territory of Jammu and Kashmir, right? Now, this part is beyond India. This is LOAC, line of actual control, after which China has taken control, Aksai Chin. This is LOC, line of control, after which this is Pakistan occupied Kashmir, right? This part is the Kashmir part which India controls as of now, right? And this is the popular Siachen Glacier, right? Now, in this part, we have three important regions, Jammu, Kashmir and Ladakh, right? So Ladakh was this region and Kashmir was the rest of it. This part was Kashmir, Srinagar being here and Jammu being close to Punjab here, right? So now after the amendment, right, after 370 article was abrogated, the whole state was divided in two union territories. One union territory was Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, and the second one was Ladakh, right, where Kargil also is a part of. So Kargil is a part of Ladakh UT. So these were the two important changes which were made. Now imagine a time when the population, suppose population in Jammu has increased in last 20 years, suppose, and Kashmir, because of extreme climate, because of the unrest there, population has decreased, people have migrated. So people in the constituencies around the plain areas around Jammu will be more and Kashmir will be less, right? But constituencies were already divided, right? So there will be less people voting from the valley region and more people voting from Jammu region, right? So this will create a disparity. Why? Because there has to be equality of representation from each constituency, from each part of the territory, right? So this is where, for equality of representation, the boundaries of constituencies have to be redrawn for election purposes, right? So this is where the Delimitation Commission comes into the picture, right? Now, in Jammu and Kashmir, for the elections to happen, right, now there is no election happening right now. So it is under direct center control right now. So for the political process to get initiated in Jammu and Kashmir, the Delimitation Commission has been initiated and it has to present its report to redraw the census, the boundaries of constituencies for elections, right? So this is how it will redraw and then the political process will get initiated, right? So this is what Delimitation Commission is about. It is about redrawing the boundaries of state assembly, right? So that representation is equal, so that competition is equal, right? Suppose if, in the same example, if Jammu has 100 people voting and Kashmir region has, each constituency has 50 people voting. So here we will need more votes for a person to win, but here a person will need less votes to win. Also, see, if this is a constituency and here competition is less, here competition is more, this is not equal competition. The government has to provide for equal competition in all the constituencies. So this is the main agenda, right? It is also put in the constitution as a part of Article 82 and as a part of Article 170 that delimitation must be done, right? Now delimitation has been done four times after census. So when the population is understood, what is the demography, how many people are living in particular areas, and that is how the Delimitation Commission tries to redraw the boundaries, trying to give equal number of persons at all the respective places, right? And they might also increase the number of territories. Okay, so why delimitation in Jammu Kashmir in specific is what we are studying, because Jammu and Kashmir has been a special state with a special consideration, and therefore it is slightly different. See, once we have to delimit the central territories, that means for parliamentary elections, for Lok Sabha, the central laws will come into play. But if we have to delimit the state assembly seats, J&K constitution used to come into play, but no more. Now we have the central laws for Jammu and Kashmir also, because it is now a union territory, right? So the last time this was done, delimitation was done, it was done on the basis of 1981 census. So for the last 2-3 decades, nothing has happened there. No delimitation has happened there. Also, there was a freeze on fresh delimitation of the seats until 2026, right? So that more seats may not be created, so that there is no distortion in representation. So that is why delimitation was not done at that time. However, after this new reorganization, now after the formation of union territory, the government has said that we will be installing a delimitation commission, and the government did install this commission in March 2020, and this is when COVID struck, right? Before they could initiate their work, the COVID struck, and therefore this work was pending, and they had been given 1 year's time to implement this delimitation, and now the term of this commission has been extended by another year, right? So this is the update. After delimitation happens, then only elections will be happening in Jammu and Kashmir. The third article, this third snapshot for today, is about industrial safety and the hazards that it can potentially cause, right? Now, the article says that there's hardly any improvement in the safety measures that industries apply during the process of manufacturing of goods. So Bhopal gas was an important and very important tragedy during the 1984 times, and the lessons although should have been learned but have not been learned. The article says that even during the COVID crisis, there have been many major industrial accidents, right? So this is a cause of concern. So these industrial hazards and accidents must be studied and lessons must be learned. This is what the article speaks about, right? So the article mentions important ways this can be handled. Now 3 stages it has mentioned. The first stage is preparation, right? Beforehand, not expecting that the attack will actually happen, but we must prepare for it. And after preparation, during the operations, the regular operations of the company must maintain certain prohibitions and certain actions. And in case the disaster strikes, how the company must act, right? So there are 3 ways the article has beautifully told what should be done. The first one is process hazard analysis, right? Suppose if it is a metro, so what could be the hazard? If it is a sub-ground metro, if the metro is running below the ground, it has got the hazard of flooding, electrification failures, it has got the hazard of earthquakes, right? So they have to prepare for these kind of hazards, right? If there's a factory, handling chemical is an issue. So there must be analysis of what the hazard is in that place. The second one is about having written operating procedures, right? What should be the actual procedure and how, in case of any contingency issue, this has to be handled, right? The third one is about informing all the participants, right? The company executives, the company workers, the directors, everybody, informing them, and then creating a management of change, right? So how to do that? So they can equip the whole place with better safety standards, with better measures. So this is the management of change, and assuring that a good quality change has happened. So quality assessment has to be also done. After that training, we have seen so many drills in organizations happening. So this is the preparation in case the disaster happens, right? However, during operations, if there is certain disaster which strikes, what has to be done then? So a proper investigation has to be carried out. This is one important thing it suggests. Then emergency planning and execution of that planning, right? And after that, auditing of what happened, how it happened, that is called as reconnaissance. That means after that event has happened, we study it to learn from it. So these are important ways the disasters can be mitigated, right? Important question, right? Relating to economy and industry, right? Workplace must be a happy place. It must be a secure place. This is how you can conclude the article. Pygmy hog, right? Many organisms, many plant species, animal species have returned back from almost critically endangered levels, right? So they were endangered species, but now they have returned back because of the efforts laid down by humans. Now this is the case of pygmy hog. It was almost threatened, but now it was almost critically endangered, but now it is endangered. Why? Because the species has been reintroduced in several parks, right? For example, Manas National Park, it has been reintroduced. Very small species of hog, pig it is. And so the effort started in 1971 when this gentleman Gerard Durrell, he started to revive their presence in the wild, right? So once the captive organisms, animals, they started to breed and the population increases, they are also introduced to the wild so that they can regrow naturally as well, right? This is how it is controlled and helped out. Okay, so pygmy hog is what we discussed today. Terms and concepts. The first important term and concept that we discuss is rubber plantation in Assam. Now, rubber plantation is traditionally a tropical, a hot climate plantation, right? However, Assam is not a place where it is hot climate throughout the year. In winters, it becomes cold. There are many areas which become cold, and therefore a new mutation, a biotic mutation in the gene sequence of rubber crop has helped it grow in Assam. So this mutation is called as gene MN manganese superoxide demutase. So this is going to help the rubber grow in the severe cold conditions in Assam as well, right? And therefore here in this area, rubber will grow fast even in winters, and it will grow with a lot of productivity, right? This research was carried out by Kerala based Rubber Research Institute of India, right? So Kerala based institute. The second terms and concept is about the 4th tiger reserve in Rajasthan. We have had 3 till now, and the 3 are at Alwar. One is at Alwar, Savai Madhopur, and then we have Kota. These are the 3 places we have the tiger reserves, and the 4th one, this one will be instituted at Bundi. So all of these are located at the boundary of different states. So therefore they become very important. Boundary of Madhya Pradesh, almost Delhi here, and then we have Gujarat. So after this is the Aravallis, and then we have the desert areas, right? So on the east of Rajasthan, we have these 4 national parks which are tiger reserves. So they are Ranthambore in Savai Madhopur, and then we have Sariska in Alwar and Mukundra in Kota. So this is the 4th one now being instituted for tiger protection. Presidio Principles. Now this is an important term. Why? Because they'll ask this term, what is it related to, and that will all be the question. So you must know what this is. Now, World Economic Forum has introduced these Presidio Principles so that the blockchain technology, the digital technology, the decentralized networking of organizations can follow these principles. What are these principles? Now, these principles are based on the rights of individuals, the rights of persons who will be availing services. They must be aware of where their data is being stored. So they must have transparency and accessibility. So there are four important principles they have mentioned. So transparency and accessibility of data, right? They must know which agency is storing it, interoperability of their information, privacy and security must be ensured, and accountability of the organization and governance must be up to the mark. So these are the 4 principles they have said people ought to follow while they decentralize networks through blockchain ecosystem, right? So this is what they have mentioned, Presidio Principles. New Doppler radars in Maharashtra. Now this article is about a kind of radar being placed in important places. Now what is Doppler's effect? Important about science. Now if I am standing here and if train is moving towards me, and it is also blowing a horn, what happens? We will start hearing louder voice of the train. Yes, the frequency also will change. There will be higher frequency. So only by standing here, I can feel the train is moving towards me, even if I don't see the train. Similarly, the train is going away from me, I will feel right from the horn that it is going away from me. Similarly, if we place these Doppler radars in important locations, these radars will be able to understand if the cyclone is coming to us or going away from us. If the intensity of rainfall is going to be high or not. What is the direction in which the cyclone is going to move? So having these radars along Indian coast is very important, and India is going to place around 50 such radars along the whole Indian coast. India already has it, but now we will be installing certain radars in Maharashtra as well. We have got more cyclones coming towards the western part because of climate change, right? So this is what it is. The article is about. It will help in weather system forecasting, engaging rainfall, understanding the climate change happening in the area, tracking cyclones, wind speed, direction, right? Cloud development, precipitation accumulation, how much precipitation will happen at particular place. So use this while talking about climate change and how India is tackling it, the radars, right? Okay, editorials of the day. We have two editorials for you today, important editorials. The first one is about third generation reforms in the country. The first generation reforms in the country were in the form of 1950s, 60s, where industrialization was promoted. The second generation reforms also happened in 1990s about liberalization. But both these reforms, they got stagnated during a period of time, right? Employment also plateaued after a while. But the article says that we have never focused much on health, education and jobs. And this should be the focus of these sectors, right? The private participation has been not up to the mark in these levels. Also, the government must be participating in these essential service driven sectors, right? Government needs to boost these particular sectors. Governments must scale the quality of it and also improve the quality of it, right? The private sector has always been asked to participate in various places, and this is where the government must participate. How will it help? If the government participates, its spending will increase. The private savings will be more, right? The savings of the individuals also will be more in that case, because out of pocket expenditure for the poorer people, for their education needs, health, etc., wo kam ho jayega. So this is how the government needs to boost itself in terms of this kind of infrastructure, right? The growth, right? And the private and the poor will be helped. How can it do? One important way to the article says it can do is by improving the taxation, right? Improving the tax to GDP compliance of the country. So this is what the third generation reforms in the governance talks about. The government participating in providing important services and private sector and individuals taking advantage of it and growing ahead, right? One way to do it is through improving the tax compliance and tax to GDP ratio. The second article is about the technology gap between males and females. We all have seen in our daily lives how males have got more access to smartphones, to smart devices and to internet as well as compared to females. It can be seen through the way COVID has been handled. A lot of COVID information has been passed online, right? Vaccination registration is being done online, and it can easily be seen that the number of males who have been vaccinated is far more than the number of females who have been vaccinated. This is what the article talks of. The article also says that there is a tinge of patriarchy in this. How? We see that since male have these devices, access to these devices, they do not want females also to access these devices as much, because there is a feeling that if the females are exposed to content online, they'll be more liberalized, they will feel independent, right? And therefore there is a tinge of patriarchal mindset in the Indian society. The article also says that in terms of digital access, there is a lot of disparity. For example, in India, the percentage of females who are accessing internet is only around 15 to 16%, and this number is more in case of males, right? Imagine a time when there is actual equity, when women products are also sold in the market and they can access them online, right? So making their life actually easier. This will help in the contribution to GDP, help them formalize their work, help them give more opportunities, right? So one simple example you can understand this through is creation of, for example, scooter or motorcycle. Now, sitting on the motorcycle is not an easy job for a female, the way they sit in our India, right? So the innovations have to be made in a way so that the female participation also is equitable, right? So government cannot do everything about it. The article says that the private sector needs to take initiative here, right? Another good example is the economy for pregnant ladies, the large type of clothes that they wear during these times. The economy for them has only begun right now because there was a demand, however there were no products. So these kind of things have to be noted, and then they have to be prospered, and the digital technology can be used to help the growth of an important segment of the society, the females in the society. This is what the article speaks of. Now, case study, an interesting one today. This is about Mr. Ratan Chaudhary. Now, he is a teacher in Nasik, in a village in Nasik. During the times of COVID, when he came back to his home, he saw people were not participating in COVID drives for vaccination. Very soon he realized that it was a hesitation of people because of misinformation. People were misinformed that if they go ahead with vaccination, they will be, they could even die, and there could be impotency. And therefore, the first person he introduced to vaccination was his father, right? He started with his own family, the example of his own father. And after that, this is how he started to reach out to people, say, we have gotten vaccinated ourselves, now it's your turn, right? So he started to reach out to people by going and giving ahead only the mask. He introduced conversations, why don't you get vaccinated? So this is how he started this, a very inspiring one. And in due course of time, a place where he was living, only 2,500 people were vaccinated earlier, and this jumped to around 7 to 8 times that figure, right? So this is a very good case study of a person being the change maker in their community and society. We all can do that, right? We pass on so much of social media information. We do pass some positive information, and by mistake we do pass some negative information at times, right? The idea is to help humanity, help ourselves grow and people. And this is how we are preparing for, this is why we are preparing for this exam, right? So just like Mr. Chaudhary from Nasik, we also can be an important agent of change. Keep studying and keep viewing the video. Thank you.